Welcome back to All This Math. Listen, if you're here, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. At the end of this video, if you have any questions, or actually not at the end of the video, share this with at least one other person. Share this video with at least one other person. Let them see what we're doing at All This Math. We educating the community. We providing free math lessons to the community. All right. Also, as I explain what I'm about to explain, if you have any questions, go ahead and type your questions in the comment section, right? So I can see what questions you have. All right. And I may make a follow-up video just based on your questions. All right. Or if you have any comments, drop a comment in the comment section. All right. And also, shout out to the Morgan State University, right? Morgan State University School of Business, the Earl G. Graves School of Business that I graduated from back in 2003. Man, that's a minute ago. It's 2025 right now. That's 22 years ago, right? See, I did that math. 2025 minus 2003, or 25 minus 3. See, right? See, we got to practice math at all times so we can understand, right? We can understand things. All right. So look, we got a problem up here where we're dealing with an appliance, some type of major appliance. Could be a refrigerator, could be an oven, right? Could be a washing machine, could be a dryer unit, some type of major appliance. Costs $450, right? It's on sale for 15%. So on the tag, right? 15% off, right? You see it on the showroom floor, see the floor model, boom, we selling this. It's $450 regular price, but it's 15% off. Then you see somewhere else also around there that at the register, an additional ADD apostrophe L, that stands for additional. An additional 20% is taken off. When additional 20% is taken off. All right. What is the final price? Now, I wanted to do a video on this particular problem, this type of problem, because we see this often. We see this on tests. We see this on, different examples and, math classes, personal finance classes, financial literacy classes, right? You see this, right? Because a lot of people think that all you got to do is do 15% plus 20%, which adds up to 35%, right? And then you just find what 35% of 450 is to find the discount, right? That's what a lot of people think. That's not true, right? That's a good wrong answer. That's what we call a good wrong answer. It's good because it shows you thinking, at least you're thinking, but you're thinking wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to let you know what you should do. And I want to talk about why that's wrong. It's wrong because taking 35% of 450 means that you're taking both percentages at the same time. And that's not what this says. It says that it's already on sale for 15%. So the moment you see it right there, you see the refrigerator, you see the oven, see the washing machine, whatever, right? You see it, it's already 15% off. 450 was the original price. And then they come with another tag and say, look, this 15% off. So right now, immediately it's 15% off. They tell you when you get to the register, then they're going to take an additional 20% off, right? Now, taking 15% off of 450 first, right? And then taking 20% off of that new amount, that discounted amount, is not going to give you the same amount of money as doing 15 plus 20 and then coming up with 35% and then taking 35% of 450. It's not. I could prove it. We could do the math right now. I'll show you. All right. So let's do this. Let's imagine that, let's say, typical person, because a lot of people would do that. A lot of people just add the 15 and the 20 and then say, oh, 35%. Right? So let's do 35% of 450. All right. Now I'm gonna show you something, right? I'm gonna show you something. What I would do to do 35% of 450 is I would do 10% 3 times and then 5% once. Because 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30, plus 5 is 35. Think about what I just did. 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30, plus 5 is 35. So if I could figure out how much money is 10%, I take that dollar amount and I multiply it by 3. That's my 30%. Again, if I figure out what 10% is, what dollar amount that is, I multiply it by 3. That's 30%, right? 10% times 3 is 30%. So the dollar amount, which is 10%, multiply that by 3. That's the dollar amount. That's 30%. All right. Now, I want to make sure nobody watching this video is one of them people that thinks, or at least if you are, after you watch this video, you will never be this type of person again. Don't think that 15% is $15. Don't think that 20% is $20. It's only one situation where 15% will be $15. That's if you're talking about $100. If you're talking about something that already costs $100 regularly, originally, 15% of that is going to be $15. If you talk about something that costs $100, 20% of that going to be $20, right? But if you get into if something that's $101, 15% ain't $15 because the percent is a fraction. We got to understand as a concept, what is a percent? What is it? You need to know what it is and be able to speak intelligently about it. A percent is a fraction that has 100 for its denominator. The denominator is the number at the bottom. The numerator is the number at the top. So the percent is the numerator. The invisible denominator is 100. We could rewrite this as 15 over 100 or 15 hundredths. We could write it like that, right? Because a percent is equivalent to a fraction. Every percent has a fraction that it's equivalent to. So the word percent means out of 100, because cent means 100. Like that's why a centimeter, right, is 100th of a meter. The prefix centi. So we got to understand, like English language, we need English language skills to understand math. So it ain't no such thing really as being a math person or a reading person. You need to know how to read for real to be a math person. You need to have reading comprehension to understand the math, understand the algebra, right? You can figure stuff out and break stuff down, all right? So 20% is equivalent to 20 hundredths or 20 over 100, right? So the only time 15% is equal to $15 is if you're talking about if you're taking, dealing with $100. If you're dealing with $30, no, it ain't $15. Then 15% ain't gonna be $15, right? Because we gotta understand it's a fraction. All right. Now out of 450, 15% ain't $15 out of 450, right? It ain't. All right. So we gotta understand these things. Now, how do we find 10% of any number? I'm gonna put you into some game. This is how you find 10% of any number. You take the decimal, you look for the decimal point in that number. In this case, we're talking about 450. Somebody gonna say, well, hey, I don't see no decimal point. Right, you don't. There's an invisible decimal point after the zero. After the last digit in a whole number, there's an invisible decimal point there. So if you want to find 10% of any number, you take the decimal point, whether it's written or it's not written, and you move it over one space to the left, not to the right, not to the right, to the left, to the left, to the left, like Beyonce said, to the left, right? So one space is now it's going to be 45.0. So 10% of 450 is $45. That means it's $45. Like I told you, 10% ain't $10. 10% is only $10 if you're dealing with $100. If you're dealing with any other number besides 100, 10% ain't going to be $10. All right. So now 10% is 45, but we want 35%. So let's find 30. 10% times 3 is 30%. So do 45 times 3. 45 times 3. Hopefully you can do that mentally. Hopefully you don't need a calculator for that. If you need a calculator for it, do it. But hopefully you don't need a calculator because you could do 45 is the same thing as 40 and 5. 40 and 5. 40 times 3 is 120. We need to know how to do that. Whether you're a child or a grown man or woman, we need to know how to do that. That should be the goal. We got to get to that point, right? Where we're comfortable with the numbers, right? We can make the numbers do things, right? Figure stuff out for us. 40 times 3 is 120. 5 times 3 is 15. What's 120 plus 15? 120 plus 15 is 135, right? 135. So that's your 30%. Now what's 5%? Isn't 5 half of 10? Isn't 5 half of 10? It is, right? If something regularly costs $10 and it's half off or 50% off, that means it's $5 off. So it only should cost you $5. Half of 10% is $5. So that means you got to take half of $45 because that'd be 5%. What's half of $45? And yes, it's an odd number, but you can still divide it by 2. Half of 45 is $22.50. How did I do that? Think about how I did that. I took the 45 and I broke it down into 40 and 5. 40 and 5. What's half of 40? 20. What's half of 5? 250. You got to know that. You got to know that. And the best way to know it is to let somebody teach it to you, right? And then you got to practice every day. You got to practice every day. A lot of people, they'll let somebody teach it. They'll listen to somebody else talk about it, and then they don't go put the work in. You got to put the work in and practice on your own, or else you're never going to get it. I'm going to just be honest. I'm going to be straight up with you and be honest with you. All right. So now we got half of 45 is $22.50. So that means that 130. So we do 135 plus $22.50. That's going to be, now how I'm going to do this? I'm going to do 100. I'm going to do 30 plus the 20 is 50. $100, right? And we got 30 and 20, that's 50. And 5 and 250 is 750. So 157.50. So that's 35% of $450. So now What would the discounted price be if we took 35% off? We took 157.50 off. We subtract 0 minus 0 is 0, 5 minus 5 is 0, 4 minus 7. Hold up. Oh, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, we can't subtract like that. I'm tripping right now. We can't subtract like that. We got to line up the decimal points. Line up the decimal points. 450 minus 157.50. There you go. There you go. There you go. That looks better. All right. So 0 minus 0 is 0. I'm about to do this the old fashioned way. Watch this. So this is old fashioned way. Take it back to elementary school. All right. Start from the right. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 5. I don't want to do that because that's going to give me a negative. Using the standard algorithm, I don't want to end up with a negative. So then I'm going to go over here and try to borrow. I can't borrow. That's nothing. I can go over here. This is 50, right? So I can take 10 from 50. Now that's 40. What I do with the 10? I give it to the ones place. 10 plus 10 is the same thing as 10 ones. So this is going to become 10, right? But I wanted to borrow over here in the 10th place, right? The 10th place, right? The dimes. This is how many dimes. This is how many dimes. This is how many pennies. This is how many dimes. This is how many pennies. 5 dimes, 0 pennies. 0 dimes, 0 pennies. But I need some dimes because I want to subtract 5 and not get a negative. So I'm going to take one of these, right? Because this is 10. So I'm going to take one of these. So that becomes 9. And one, just like $1 is 10 dimes. $1 is 10 dimes. So I take that one and I put it over here. Now I got 10 tenths, so 10 dimes. Dimes, pennies, dimes, pennies, dimes, pennies. All right. So now 0 minus 0, that was done. 10 minus 5 is 5. 10 dimes minus 5 dimes is 5 dimes. $9 minus $7 is $2. $40 minus $50. All right, we're not doing that because that's going to give us a negative. So I'm going to borrow from 100. I'm going to borrow from this 400. Now I got 300 left. I'm going to take the 100 and give it to the tens. $100 is the same thing as 10 $10 bills, right? $100 is the same as 10 $10 bills. So when I go to the tens place, now I got 10 $10 bills plus the 4 that was already there. 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 $10 bills. What's 14 minus 5? 14 minus 5. Make sure you know your subtraction facts. 14 minus 5 is 9. And then 300 minus 100 is 200. So this would be the price. This would be the discounted price if you took 35% off. But that's not what this is saying. And I got a theory. My theory is this. I think that a lot of store owners and a lot of corporations, they know that a lot of people are not as strong in math as we should be. And that we're going to assume that this means that you would add the 15 and the 20 and get 35, and then just maybe throw that in your calculator, do 0.35 times 450, and then that would be 157.50, and then subtract the 157.50 from the 450 to get this price right here. So it makes you feel like you're saving more than what you actually save if they actually do the math correctly according to how it's advertised, because it's on sale for 15%, meaning you got to take 15% off of 450 first. Then from that amount, you got to take 20% of that. So you taking 20% from a smaller amount than 450, right? When you take 35%, that's like taking 15% over here and taking 20% over here, and then adding them $2 amounts together, and then subtract, getting 157.50 and then subtracting them. But that's not what's happening. It's about time. You're not taking 20% at the same time that you're taking 15%. Because look what it says. It says at the register. The appliance is already on sale, right? It's already on sale for 15% off. But you don't get 20%. It don't go down to 20% off until somebody buy it, right? If nobody buy it, it's just going to be 15% off. That's how it's advertised. So we got to understand. We got to have a reading comprehension. We got to know how to understand advertisements, right? We got to understand these things, or else they're going to get us, right? You want to protect yourself. So look, let's do this. Let's do it the correct way. What is 15% of 450? 15% of 450. We already know 10% is 45 and 5% is 2250. So we know that 15% is 45 plus 2250. That's 40 plus 20. That's 60. 5 plus 250 is 750. So we know that's 6750. So we know 15% is 6750. So now do this. We're going to subtract that from 450. Subtract this from 450. Subtract this from 450. So now we got 450 minus 6750. 0 minus 0. Now, 0 minus 5, same thing I did up here, right? I want to borrow from the ones place. I can't. It's nothing there. Let's go to the tens place. Let's borrow 10 from this 50. That's going to make that 40. Take the 10, put it in the ones place. 10 is the same thing as 10 ones. So that's going to become 10, right? Now I need this to be larger than 5, right? Using the method that I'm using, right? So that's going to mean I'm going to borrow 1 from this 10. That's going to turn into a 9. So $1 is the same thing as 10 dimes, right? $1 is the same thing as 10 dimes. So this your dime place. This your penny place. Dimes, pennies, dimes, pennies. So that's going to be 10 right there. So now I could do 10, take away 5. That gives me 5. Bring down your decimal point. 9 minus 7 is 2. 40 minus 60. I don't want to do that because I don't want to I'm not going to say I can't do it, but I don't want to do it because using the method that I'm using, I don't want to end up with no negatives. I don't want to end up with no negatives. And 4 minus 6 is going to give me negative 2. I don't want negatives. So let's go to the hundreds place. This is 400. I'm going to borrow 100 from that 400, leaving 300 right there. I'm going to take 100. I'm going to put it in the tens place. Isn't 100 the same thing as 10 $10 bills? 100 is the same as 10 $10 bills. So that 100 is going to change over to 10 $10 bills. So I'm going to put that 10 $10 bills with these 4 $10 bills to make 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. And then 3, take away 0, because that blank space is a 0, is 382.50. So after you take the 15% off, the appliance costs $382.50. It costs $382.50, right? Now when you get, then after that, then you take 20% off. See, we're not taking 20% off of $450. $450 is a bigger amount, so you're gonna get a bigger discount. But we taking 20% off of a smaller amount, so you're gonna get a smaller discount. All right. Now let me show you a trick. Let me show you a trick. Instead of taking 20% off, instead of subtracting 20% from this, we can skip a step by doing this. If we're taking 20% off of something, that thing represents 100%, the whole amount right here. So right now, 382.50 is our 100%. If you're taking 20% off of that, doesn't that leave you with 80%? So aren't we actually looking for 80% of this, right? Because you could find 20%, calculate that, and then take that dollar amount and subtract it from this. Or you could just calculate 80% of this and get straight to the answer. We can get straight to the answer. Let me say that again. I'm going to run it back. Instead of calculating 20% of this and then subtracting that dollar amount from this, we can calculate 80% of this and get straight to the answer. Why? Because this is 100%. Well, this represents 100%. We're taking 20% off. What's 100% minus 20%? 80% is what we're going to be left with regardless. We're going to be left with 80% regardless. So you can just immediately just go straight to the 80%. So what's 80% of 382.50? So, I mean, and that's all right. So let's do that. Let me write it right here. 80% of, now if you want to, if you dead set on doing it the original way we did it, finding 20% of this and then subtracting that from this, you can do that. I just want to show you an option. I like for students to have options. Now, because this is a larger decimal, I'm going to go ahead and break out the calculator. Convert this to a decimal. Multiply it by 382.50. Let's see what we get. 0.8 times 382.5. Young boys outside playing curveball. Hope they don't hit my car. I'll be having the most random thoughts. Yeah, so 306. So look, if you take off 35% by adding the 15% and the 20%, the discounted cost of this appliance would be $292.50. But if you do it the correct way, right, based on how it's actually advertised, if you take 15% off the original price, knocking it down to $382.50, then you take 20% off of that, you're going to end up with 306. So look at the difference. $292.50. It's a deeper discount. If you do it wrong, you get a bigger discount. If you do it right, your discount not so big. What's the difference? It's like 750, like 13. It's off by $13.50. That matters. That means something. So I wanted to do this video because I see this advertisement in stores a lot, and I want for people to be able to calculate what their total is going to be correctly. You know, I don't want for people to get to the cash register and be expecting to spend this much money, but then in reality end up having to spend this money. And we ain't even adding the sales tax. I ain't even get into the sales tax. I ain't get into that, you know? So, yeah, but again, percentages are the language of finance, the language of commerce, the language of financial literacy. You can't be financially literate if you don't know how to do work and do mathematics and calculations with percentages. You just can't. Ain't no way around it. So your best option is to just learn it. Like I said, I got a whole playlist called Percentage Calculation Problems. Percentage Calculation Problems right here on this channel. That's why I told you to subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe. Go ahead. Subscribe if you ain't subscribed. Hit the like button. Like the video if you ain't hit the like button yet. Also, if you got any questions about anything I did up here, put your questions in the comment section. Put your questions in the comment section. I might make a whole video just addressing your question. All right. Again, shout out to the Morgan State University, National Treasure down in Baltimore. All right. That's where I graduated from. All right. See y'all later. Peace.